Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Oniemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in to episode 67 of the House Huddle Podcast. Huddle up! As always, I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. With me, my co-host and one of my closest friends, Justin Oniemi.
It's great to be here. I love kind of listening to the intro when it makes me want to say something. And in this case, Rob, you were yelling on TV.
I was.
Rob was in attendance in the game, and I actually took my head down for a second. I don't know if I was jotting down a note or something. And my son goes, "Was that Uncle Rob on the TV?" And I was like, "What?" So I roll it back. I'm like, "Sure enough, there you are." And then right after that, they pan over to another buddy of mine. So it was like so odd that in one shot, it's two people I knew going to. Well, I didn't even know he was going to the game.
Right.
So pretty crazy. But.
Well, the funny thing is my phone started blowing up. Like people from work, family, friends, like blowing up. But my brother-in-law, or technically former brother-in-law, texted me, and he had the captions on. And I felt like the captions just made it even better because it said something around the lines of the crowd wasn't happy with the call. And you just see my face just.
You're the mascot of the unhappy fan, unhappy Chicago fan.
Well, what's funny is I don't know specifically when it happened. And maybe you can tell me because I hadn't asked anyone yet. Was it the DJ Moore pass interference penalty, which would have been the second one, I believe, in the game? Or was it that they ran the ball on a
third and 19? That's what it was.
It was like just a draw.
Right, to then punt.
Yes.
And then you were like, must have stood up like, hey, what kind of play call is that?
I'm not expecting them to throw the ball deep down the field, but at least run a screen where you can have a chance. How often do you see a 3rd and 18 work on a shotgun draw?
So now we get to see exactly. This is like an instant replay of what they showed on Thursday. But that was a good cutaway. Obviously, your passion for the Bears was something they caught and put on television. And we even had a listener comment on it. Dr. Truth commented on our last video, because we obviously haven't put one out yet.
Right.
About seeing you on the broadcast. So
nice.
Very nice. Everyone was saying, is that a Sanborn jersey? I don't think it was, right?
Okay.
There's a story with that jersey.
There's a story with it. And if I cry, okay, I don't want to hear that I'm soft like Caleb Williams, or I'm blanking on the guy who took over from Michigan because Jim Harbaugh was not able to coach, right? And he was crying in his after press conference after they won. So there's a chance I'm going to cry. I mean, I'm admitting it right now, but it's very emotional. And this was even more emotional because it was the first time that I've been at a Bears game since my dad died. I don't know if I've ever talked about it, but we have season tickets because they were my dad's season tickets. Those season tickets were passed down to me and my siblings. COVID hit. We weren't really able to go. Then it just got to a point where we were just selling them in order to, earn a little bit of extra money. And I don't know, things just didn't work out where we were able to go to games. I actually tried selling these tickets. It didn't go well.
Those were unsellable.
I ended up selling 2 of them to friends of mine. And then I had lost the sale. Like the StubHub cancels the sale at at the time the gates open. Like they shut it down. So I couldn't list it again. It was like, no, it's too close to game time, blah, blah, blah. So I actually sold it through the Bears site. And it sold after the game technically started to a guy who bought tickets and got screwed, never got the tickets, and then he actually bought them through StubHub, and then StubHub bought my other ticket, and then that's how he got our seat next to us. So I ended up selling that basically after the game started. $100 under face value, by the way. Not good. So the emotional part, again, is this the first time I've been to a Bears game since my dad died. My dad died of a heart attack. It was very abrupt. It wasn't anything that we were expecting. Not to take this any further, but he was like my person. I spoke to him every single day. He's the reason why I'm a Bears fan today. 57 was a custom jersey that guys from Fansided, who is the parent company of Bear Goggles, put together. They pulled up their money, bought this jersey for me. And 1957 is a custom jersey with my dad's last name, well, same as mine, but senior instead of junior on the back. And 1957 was the year he was born. So I get the Sanborn stuff consistently.
Right.
And thank goodness Sanborn's a decent player.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it was a very emotional. It was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was fun being there, but it was a very emotional game being there for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah. That's a good story. I know that's a special relationship and special jersey, and you even brought a Bears win, which that's pretty special.
Yeah.
That's a rarity.
It wasn't a good win. It was an ugly win, but it was a win.
Well, and it helped them in the draft slotting as well.
Yes,
so,
I saw a graphic, and I don't recall. I'm going to probably get the percentages slightly wrong, but I saw a graphic basically saying had the Chicago Bears won that game, they had a 48% chance of getting the first overall pick in the draft. Had they lost the game, they still had like a 28% chance of getting the first overall pick in the draft, and that was still like third or fourth best. I'm guessing Arizona and the Giants probably would have jumped ahead.
Why? By losing, I feel like they would have helped their chances.
Because the Panthers have a much higher percentage chance of getting that first overall pick had they lost,
right?
Than had
I guess
they won.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at too many different things, but the odds of them having a top 3 pick is pretty high.
It's got to be.
It's like 80 or 90%. I want to say it's like 80%.
Thank you, Kyler Murray, for coming back.
Oh, this was before that.
I'm sure. But now?
Yeah. I didn't. So Arizona, at the time of this recording, Arizona won today against Atlanta. But when I heard this percentage, this was before they had played. So like I would imagine now that even makes it even more likely. But basically, Carolina, in all likelihood, will finish with a top 3 pick.
Oh, easily.
Because even if they tie people, their strength of schedule is the weakest.
Yeah.
And so it's like seen as if your record is the same and you played a weaker schedule, you're a worse team, so you get the better pick.
Right.
So for all these teams to jump for them, they'd have to actually have an extra win on them or whatever. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the game, the Thursday night game against Carolina, and then we're going to talk big picture. We're going to bring back an old segment that we really love.
Yes.
Best case, worst case.
I told my wife about it today. She's like, "Oh yeah, you told me about that one. I never actually watched, but yeah, I know you brought that up a couple times. Yeah.
I had something.
Best case, worst case.
We also really quickly should mention this is episode 67.
Yes.
Did you do anything to research it? Because I'm okay giving it to a familiar face.
I'm calling this a center episode.
Okay. I'm supposed to be guessing.
Well, I'm gonna bet you know one of them.
I know one of them.
Okay.
Sam Mustipher.
Sam Mustipher is one of them. And
how many are there?
There's only one other one.
One other one.
But he's a guy that rang a bell with me because it was somebody that I recall being on the team when I really started to get into Bears football and separated myself from being a Dolphins fan, late 90s, early 2000s.
67.
Yeah. Never made a Pro Bowl, was not.
I'm about to say I can only think of a last name, and I don't even know.
And he was with the team for 8 years.
So. I don't even know if he was a center, who I'm about to say. Fontenot?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay,
way to pull that one out.
All right. Nice.
So, yeah.
The centers.
So we got Sam Mustipher and Jerry Fontenot. And he was technically a center guard.
I think of his first name.
He was a center basically his whole career. Here in New Orleans were his 2 teams mostly, which is funny because didn't Olin Kreutz go to New Orleans too? Is the only other team he played for? Yeah,
you're right. Ended his career playing with Breeze.
Yeah,
and said he didn't have to do any of the stuff he had to do here.
Well,
because you're playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's like, I got the calls, I got the adjustments.
Right.
You just be fat in front of me.
That's right.
And snap the ball, which is something we need. But
that
anyway.
is true.
I saw that Doug Kramer did get picked up. He's with Arizona.
Yes. Yeah. What is that?
I don't like that.
No.
So, but that's the position I think they'll need to address big picture. We're going to talk a little big picture today, as well as the game. So,
yeah, speaking of the game and center, I didn't get to take notes, but I did notice another bad snap. I believe, if I recall, it was a third down in red zone area, maybe like the 15, 18-yard line. Again, it's very difficult to tell while you're in the stands. It was a high snap on a shotgun, a little bit to the right.
Yeah.
Bad throw to DJ Moore, who, I mean, in all honesty, Moore was pretty well covered. But again, you're instantly having to readjust your eyes, readjust your timing. These things can't keep happening. And I argued with somebody on social media the day after the game about how Lucas Patrick has been good. He called him a top 15 center in the league. I'm sorry. Has he been better than Cody Whitehair? Yes. That doesn't mean that he is a top 15 center in the league. It just doesn't.
I watch other games. I don't see snapping being such a huge problem.
The week before, we talked about how one literally was rolled on the ground.
And that's just the beginning of it.
Yes.
Snapping is like, that should be fine.
Yes.
Everyone should be able to do that if you're a center. But he's also getting like backed up into the quarterback at times, getting outmatched.
I didn't see it while I was there, but I saw the replay. I don't recall down in distance or anything of where it was in the game, but he got bull rushed, fell down, and then Tevin Jenkins fell over him.
So, many games I'm like play by play by play. I did not do that this time. I just took like general notes. So that play comes to mind. I have no idea when it was in the game. Jenkins, by the way, who I think has played wonderfully this season.
Yeah.
His big thing, actually, the last 2 seasons has just been injury and availability.
Yes.
When he's played, he's been dominant. But this game, I noticed him a few plays get beat or make kind of bad plays.
Yeah.
But it just made me think that shows how good he's been. That this is like one of the rare times I actually could pick out a few things. So, yeah, I just did big observations. Right off the bat, I didn't look at the inactives. And the very first kickoff, there's no Velus. It's Scott out there. Yep. And I'm like, oh. And then the next thing I know, I see Velus in street clothes. So, to me, that's big right off the bat. I mean,
very big.
Is he on his way out? Something I'd like to know. And then just very early in the game, DJ Moore became very clearly a focus. I wouldn't say they sustained that throughout the game, but it was kind of like right away showing Carolina what they got rid of.
Yeah.
And Foreman ended up having a huge game.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to talk about, not just in the small picture of that game, but the big picture of if we really want to look at some of the moves Ryan Poles has made. I think that's one that is worth thinking about. People were upset when they let go of Montgomery. You slot in a guy like Foreman. Look how big he's been when they needed him.
Yeah.
And against his former team, huge game.
Yeah.
Earlier with the Raiders game.
I know Montgomery played well today, so people are going to say it's not, the same or Montgomery should still be here. But look, if they offered him a deal and he chose to go elsewhere, like I'm not going to overpay a running back.
And it seemed like it was a similar money thing. Yeah. So Montgomery made a decision, which that's the whole point of free agency.
Right.
The player gets a choice. The teams get a choice.
Yep.
And it wasn't a match, which could speak a little bit to Poles not matching with some of the people who were here before him.
We've talked about that.
He immediately went to another option.
Yes.
And it looks like it was a good, shrewd move. We're going to obviously put like the Claypool trade in a bad slot. Like that's a negative. That's a strike against you. But I feel like a signing like Foreman is a huge show of him having a plan. And he signed him to a short-term deal. He's actually a free agent again this year. So you can decide, do you keep him around or are you good there? Because Roschon Johnson's ready to rotate in.
Right.
So
I do want to see a little bit more.
He covered himself by drafting a guy and paying a free agent.
So. Right. And again, Roschon Johnson's still your best blocking running back compared to both Foreman and Khalil Herbert. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Herbert. Basically, he's in his 21-day window now. What does he do? Is he coming back after that 10-day little mini bye here that they get again? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Another thing that just stood out to me in the game was yet again, I feel the defense was really, really strong. Now, I think going against an offense that didn't have much certainly helped, but their only score was a punt return.
Yep.
A punt return touchdown.
former Chicago Bear, by the way.
Yeah, that was weird. And then you have Pinheiro kicking field goals for them. So
they were just swapping players. DJ Moore, Foreman, Eddie Pinheiro. I mean, I think the Bears got the better end of the deal, but
yeah. So I mean, I think the defense looked really good. Kyler Gordon was
very
played
good
probably
game
his
for Kyler
best
Gordon.
game as a Bear. I want to say. I think he's really going to be special as a nickel.
Yeah.
Which means you want to fortify what you have on the outsides, which means you should sign your 24-year-old free agent who's one of the top corners in the league.
Yep.
So, rating Poles poorly on the Claypool, giving him props for a guy like Foreman. His incomplete grade is what happens with Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a no-brainer. You say this roster is only 75% complete or 70 to 80, whatever the heck he said.
Make another hole.
Next year, we keep saying that was supposed to be the year. It's real. Yep. Like now you talk, are we going to the playoffs? Not Are we progressing? So by then you should want to say it's 100% made or it's 98% made. You don't let a top of the line corner go and then think you have a 100% complete team.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he does there. But that stood out in the game to me is just when you have the defense clicking, there was actual pressure coming from the D-line.
Yep.
Montez Sweat.
Yeah. It's
making a difference.
8 pressures in that game. Didn't get a sack, but 8 pressures. I actually tweeted out if the Chicago Bears did not get 3 sacks in this game, God, I'm blanking on the quarterback's name already.
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Yes, thank you. Bryce Young. I almost said Kyler Murray 3 times. Bryce Young was averaging 4 sacks a game going into that Thursday night game. And I said, okay, I want at least 3. You don't have to get to the 4. I want at least 3. If you don't get to 3, Matt Eberflus, you got to go.
Wow.
They got exactly 3.
Okay.
So
we'll talk Eberflus on this show as well.
Yes.
When we do our best case, worst case.
Yes.
So, like I said, I wasn't going play by play like I normally do, just looking at some big things. And what that allowed me to also do is sometimes appreciate more some of the graphics that they were throwing up on the screen, which since you were at the game, you had no clue about any of these things.
My graphics was watching the Dunkin' Donuts race go on.
There you go. There you go. Get the winner or no?
No.
Dang. No. It's fixed.
It was ice cuppy. I had donut.
Oh man. Crazy. So here you have a graphic that shows that trade, what it's going to end up being. So
this is the Panthers.
The trade.
Okay. The trade.
Panthers receive number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. Bears receive DJ Moore, number 9 pick, which they trade to the Eagles. The number 10 pick, Darnell Wright. 2nd round pick, Tyreek Stevenson. 2024 first, which is Carolina's first this year, which we just said very likely is going to be top 3. 2024 4th round pick, which is what they got from the Eagles to move that 1 pick back from 9 to 10. And the Panthers 2025 2nd round pick.
Right.
That's all for Bryce Young, my man. Now,
and that could even turn into more because it's not guaranteed that they're going to draft someone with that first Carolina pick. Maybe they trade back and receive more.
Exactly.
Not DJ Moore, but more picks, more draft capital.
That's true. So at the minimum, this is what that trade is looking like. Now,
Ryan Poles.
Could the Bears have stayed in one and taken Stroud? That's a question some people would like to ask.
Stroud's looking good, man.
He looks really good.
He was my QB1.
He looks really good.
I don't think I still wouldn't have taken him over Justin Fields, but he was my QB1. By far. Like no one was close.
And then another graphic, I'm not even going to go through it, but they just put Bryce Young up there and showed what his stats look like in his first 7 starts, wins-loss record, and then just touchdowns and picks. And basically, his are pretty terrible, but so were Stafford, so was Jared Goff, so was Joe Burrow, so was Trevor Lawrence. So, for whatever that's worth. The Panthers really need this to hit, and I just think the early signs don't look so good.
No.
But
when you can't see over your offensive lineman, and the only way you can complete passes is outside of the pocket, that's a problem.
But he played Big Ten football. I mean, at a high level. So, like, actually, I'm sorry, SEC, right? SEC,
Alabama.
My bad. SEC,
okay.
Which is even bigger and faster. So, like, to me, all those guys are going to the NFL. Was this not an issue in college?
I mean, guys are open. It's a lot easier.
I don't know. I don't want to make it that simple. Like it's about his height.
Oh, it's not just about his height. I'm just saying like that is
Okay.
a problem
Okay.
that goes along with other problems that he has.
True. Okay. So I think that was a really good move by the Bears. I think it's going to solidify, and we keep going back to his early statement that Ryan Poles made, which was we're going to build through the draft.
Yeah.
Picking the number 1 pick overall, getting that number 1 guy is worth something. It's worth a lot, or potentially worth a lot.
Yep.
But getting the kind of haul he got is how you actually build through the draft. You have at least 2 starters in Darnell Wright and Tyreek Stevenson.
Can we address one of the
elephants? 3, I'm sorry. DJ Moore.
Can we address one of the elephants in the room when it comes to this first overall pick? Marvin Harrison Jr. is by far a better prospect than Caleb Williams and Drake May. By far. But this is a quarterback league. This is not a wide receiver league. This is a quarterback league. You look at these 32 teams, how many of them actually have a quarterback? You're like, yeah, they're good. They don't need to worry about a quarterback. 15, 20?
In the current NFL?
Yes.
That high?
I mean, I'm asking. I don't know. Like, I could probably say, okay, 20. Like, I could easily
10.
Easily 10. Oh, easily 10. I could easily get to 15.
Really?
Yeah, easily.
But you don't think so? Here's what I'm saying.
And
I'd like to hear your 15. I mean, we don't literally go through 1 through 15.
Do that 'cause I'm not
but
prepped
like
for it.
when you do 11 through 15, don't you think those are the type of people where it's divided on if people think they're the dude? Like you hear Prescott. Is he in your group of like they're completely happy? They know they got their guy?
I'm not saying that there isn't a potential that a prospect could be or will be better.
Basically, you're saying
I'm saying like they're not the what's the guy's name from New York Giants right now?
Daniel Jones?
No. The guy from Illinois who's quarterbacking for them right now. DeVito.
DeVito.
Yeah. Okay. Like, I'm sorry. That's not the situation. Like, I'm sorry. Tyson Bagent. Like, no. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
so are you saying there are 10 to 15 teams that don't want to take a quarterback over the guy they have?
I'm saying there's 10 teams that don't need to take a quarterback over the guy they have. Okay. There's 15 to 20 that are like, our quarterback's okay.
Right.
Then there's the rest of the league that it's like, oh my God, we need to find something, right? Because they're talking expansions, and like you can't even fill the 32 rosters with good quarterbacks right now.
Well, that's big picture, but I'm even thinking of like you look at who's vying for this number 1 pick, where a guy like Caleb Williams is out there, and let's just put Drake May up there too as like 1 and 1A. 2 quarterbacks that are highly touted in this draft. And typically, if you're a bottom dweller team, that's what you need.
Yes.
But Cardinals are in the running for it, and they have Kyler Murray assigned to a pretty long, lengthy deal.
Yes.
Giants are in the running for this, and they had just signed Daniel Jones to a long-term deal. Now, I know either of those teams could still select a player, like we just said, and figure it out, but I don't know if those teams are in the market.
So here's where I'm going with it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to go first overall. He's just not. Even if the Cardinals have that pick. I agree with you. They like Kyler Murray. They have a massive contract with him. It would make sense for them to bring in a receiver. That said, are they going to pass up the draft haul that they would receive to move back still within the top 5 for a team, just like Chicago did last year, to move up and get a quarterback? I don't think so. There's been 3 receivers ever drafted first overall. Last time was 1996.
Has the narrative changed from what it was earlier, which was last year's draft was quirky in the fact that the Bears had the number 1 and so clearly wanted to trade it, whereas this year, whoever got 1 would want to take Caleb Williams, not trade back?
I think it's team dependent.
So do you think Arizona is a team that wants Caleb Williams if they get the number 1, or like you just said, they'd be wheeling and dealing?
I think if Kyler Murray shows out like he did again today,
then they don't get the number 1 pick.
Right.
And they don't have to make that decision.
Correct. Okay. Now, the Daniel Jones situation, I don't know. I think I would take one of those quarterbacks and you just eat it. That's just me personally.
Well, and Dable will need that to save his own job.
That's right.
So your guy's not looking so good.
New England is another team that needs a quarterback. Mac Jones, I'm sorry. He's not it.
Yeah.
He got benched for Zappy again today.
That was awkward. Yeah. It was just for the final drive.
Yeah. They needed a change.
and he threw a pick on a
Yes,
fake spike.
At a fake spike, which didn't seem to be called.
I don't know. It was weird. So, why don't we do a break, and then when we come back,
Best case,
worst case.
I can't wait.
I can't wait just to hear what Rob's got.
It'll be interesting.
Enjoy the ads. All right, welcome back to the Hallis Huddle. We're here, episode 67. We're getting up there in the numbers, man.
I'm getting old.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 40 tomorrow, guys. This is what
my
40 looks like when you're watching this.
This is what 39 and barely hanging on looks like, huh?
29.
There you go. New girl reference. Love it. Yeah, so we made it all the way to the Sam Mustipher / Jerry Fontenot episode.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. So we talked a little bit about the game, Bears winning over the Panthers on a Thursday night. But that's not mainly what we're here to do. We want to do a little best case scenario, worst case scenario, inspired from the great show This Is Us, where
Randall Beth.
Yeah, I'm a little more pragmatic, and you bring in the emotion and really open my eyes to things. So, but we're gonna go best case, worst case for a few prominent Bears.
Yeah.
I said Bears, so not all players.
Not all players. In fact, most of them aren't.
Most of them aren't, actually. So you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so we're going to go with best case first, then worst case. And the first one on the board is going to be right at the top. A little bit below the top. We're going a little bit lower than the top. We're going to skip McCaskey. We're going to skip Warren. We're going to go right to Ryan Poles. Okay. Second year of his deal. I'll go first. Best case scenario for Ryan Poles is he stays right on track with what he's doing. I'm a Ryan Poles supporter, guys. I'm not changing my face on that. There are things that he's done. I've mentioned it multiple times. We don't need to rehash it. Chase Claypool. And again, I understood the process on it. Okay. Ryan Poles is going to stay right on track. He's going to use his first round pick from the Panthers, his first round pick from the Chicago Bears. He's going to get 2 blue chip players to go with this roster. He already got a blue chip player with that second round pick in Montez Sweat. This team is starting to build it up and build it up and build it up. I'm not going to give away where I think he's going to go with his draft picks quite yet. But either way, they're going to be blue chip players. This team is going to turn it around. Fans are going to stop calling Ryan. Remember when Ryan Poles was King Poles? Like that was the thing. Now it's like a mocking joke at him. That's not going to happen anymore. Fans are going to finally realize building through the draft takes some time. We should have been more patient. Poles had a good grasp of what he was doing. He's going to prove that. 2024, we're going to be competitive. 2025, we're winning the Super Bowl, guys.
Wow, that's amazing. My best case for Ryan Poles, very similar to yours. His plan begins to come to fruition. Now, that being said, I already kind of hinted at this earlier in the show. In his best case scenario, he gets over whatever he has against there being a single Ryan Pace player on this team. I mean, right now it's Scales and Komet, basically. I think are the only re-signings that he's done from the Pace carryover. But he swallows his pride, if that's what that is, and signs Jalen Johnson. As you said, I believe they're going to have at least 2 top 10 picks, top 5 maybe. Huge opportunity to bring in more talent through the draft, lots of cap space. And as you also pointed out, the Montez Sweat trade already is about the future and is already looking like it's paying dividends. Because I say in 2 games that he's played, you already feel how much pressure he is generating on that line.
Yeah.
And before him, it was 0 pressure from the D-line. It was like the biggest, fattest ostrich egg size 0 of pressure coming from the D-line. And he's there. Like you said, he didn't get the sacks, but he opened it up for other guys and had many, many pressures on Bryce Young where he made incompletions happen. So we're already seeing the plan coming together very nicely. And I think, as you just said, by next year, if he does what he's capable of doing and finishes out the plan, that's the true no excuses tour. And hopefully it's headed towards what he's talking about, which is taking over the North and you never give it back.
All right. So now the worst case scenario. I'm not going to go worst case. Okay. Worst case would be for him, not for this team. For him would be that Kevin Warren listens to a good portion of the fan base and decides to clean house, and Ryan Poles is looking for a new job. Okay, that's worst case. But we're not going quite there. He's keeping his job, which is going to make it worst case for the Chicago Bears. He continues to bring in these guys who are athletes, right? These RAS scores and look fantastic on paper, but can never seem to just put it together. Bayless Jones. Okay. Apparently my dog's getting yelled at if you can hear it in the background. I'm sorry. Worst case scenario for the dog. She gets put out to pasture. Oh, that was bad.
Oh, yeah.
I went there. This is the explicit show. All right.
Sorry.
So Kevin Warren lets him keep building, and he keeps bringing these guys in. 2024, 2025. We're reliving this, the whole Ryan Pace thing, 7 years. Now we're getting to 5 years for Poles. Finally, Kevin Warren gets rid of him, but it's way too late because we're restarting the whole damn clock again. We never take the North. We never get to give it back because it was never ours. It's just a shit show. Nothing's working out. That's the worst case scenario.
So for me, I am going to kind of go where you said you weren't going to go. To me, the worst case scenario from Poles would be, and I think the Montez Sweat trades makes this unlikely to happen. But there's been some stuff happening behind the scenes with the Bears that haven't been a good look. And we don't know the half of it, really, when it comes to
I heard some interesting stuff.
Them firing 2 coaches mid-season.
I have a buddy in the FBI. I heard some interesting stuff. I'll tell you off air.
All right. Wow. So my point being, that stuff matters a lot too. To who's to blame, all those types of things, who knows? But a worst case scenario for Poles is it is a clean house. I guess to go off of what you're saying, if we don't want to leave it there, let's say Poles does not get fired, but is basically told you need to clean house with your coaching staff. We don't know what he can do in terms of bringing in coaching staff. We don't know if Eberflus was his choice or was his choice of a short list. But I feel like as Bears fans, we've always had trouble finding the right coach, finding the right GM, so yeah. We think we have a good one in Poles, but he's going to have a decision to make in all likelihood in terms of the coaching staff moving forward. And if you don't make the right choice, it kind of doesn't matter how much talent you bring in. You only get so far without it all gelling together. So,
yeah. All right. Next up is Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus. Best case scenario. I think you guys are going to like this one. Best case scenario. The Chicago Bears continue to lose. Okay, they win a couple more games. They're still a top 5 pick in the NFL draft for 2024. Best case scenario is Matt Eberflus is fired. Okay, this goes along with my best case scenario with Ryan Poles. He cleans house, not because he's told to, because he chooses to. Brings in one of the top offensive-minded guys, Eric Bieniemy, Ben Johnson. One of those guys, Ben Johnson, would be fantastic because you all take him away from Detroit. Matt Eberflus is fired. He gets to collect a paycheck, a massive paycheck, sits out for 2 years, goes fishing, does his hobbies. I don't even know what he likes to do. Golf? I have no idea. I think he does golf. For 2 years, he gets to be with his family. I mean, this is great for him. Making millions, doing nothing, collecting a paycheck. He comes back, becomes a prominent defensive coordinator again and realizes that's his gig and stays there just like Vic Fangio has done, and has a good rest of a coaching career. Best case scenario for Matt Eberflus.
Interesting. All right. I think the best case scenario for Eberflus is the Bears in the final 7 games beat some teams. I would think best case scenario, you have 2 against Detroit, and they're a superior team. You're looking up at Detroit at this point. But if you were to steal one from them, you'd have to beat Vikings and Packers to get season splits with them. But let's say they do that, and you win against Arizona. I won't even say Atlanta. That's 4 more victories than what they have now. A 7-win season.
Puts us where we thought,
especially with momentum going in, becomes the best case scenario, because then it's not about cleaning house. I'm not saying I'm even on board with this, but I think if he were to get them to 7 wins, ending on a high note, it kind of becomes like what they said a long time ago. Hey, anyone remember the 2022 Lions? You want to see some? Yeah, maybe they are the 2022 Lions if they finish with 7 wins or even 8. And so he gets to hold on to his job. Now, what he does with it after that, I don't know. But I think in the short term, that is absolutely his best case scenario, because so many of us already feel he's automatically fired.
Yeah.
I'm surprised your best case wasn't he immediately is hired as the DC while collecting or would that cancel?
So the reason
you get another job,
the reason I haven't done that, and I think I alluded to it in the last episode, is he still doesn't get pressures. He still doesn't bring sacks.
Right.
Like, as good as this defense has been, it reminds me of the Lovie Smith era. It's like that bend and no break. I think it's good enough to be a playoff caliber team. And clearly he's not running the offense, which has been a shit show most games. But it's like, I don't think that's a Super Bowl winning formula anymore. Like, I don't even know if it really was in 2006, even though they made it. Like, I don't know. They were getting turnovers, and that's another thing. Is there's teams not getting takeaways.
Yeah. So last year, when the Bears went on, I believe, a 4-game stretch where they averaged over 30 points a game, they were 0-4 in that stretch, I want to say. Or did they win one?
No, they were 0-4.
0-4. Okay, so
that was
there
Dallas,
was no
Miami,
complimentary. Yeah, that little stretch there. So no complimentary play.
No.
But we're used to in Chicago of like, every defense we want to compare to either the 85 Bears or maybe particular good ones in the 90s, the 2000s, but you don't need to get back to that to have a strong enough defense that keeps you in games where if you have a special offense, you're in every game.
Right.
They might be there. I mean, look at like the Jets. They have a strong defense. And so when they lost Rodgers, it almost seemed like they would be headed for number 1 pick. They're holding their own because they have just a really strong defense. They could be building towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it goes back to if Eberflus is able to keep his job, and that's kind of the best case for Poles as well, in terms of, hey, this thing is coming around. They could fill whatever holes they have through both their draft capital and the money they have in free agency, because the 2024 setup is looking really nice.
And maybe
for whichever coach, if it is Eberflus.
And maybe the addition of Montez Sweat does bring more pressures to this team, right? Like maybe it does. And maybe it will lead to more takeaways and things will look better. And then I'll feel better about him sticking around as a defensive coordinator. However, I don't think that's ever happened in the NFL. And I don't know how that would dynamic would work, as if you bring in a new head coach, but he's the DC, but he was the head coach.
I don't like that at all. But it just came up as like a what if weird hypothetical.
All right. I like it. Okay, worst case scenario for Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus is fired after the Detroit Lions beat them 50-3. Okay, he is instantly fired, out the door. I know you're a good guy, but you're fired. He can never find work in the NFL again. Okay, never in the NFL again. He tries his share of little coaching gigs in the lower ranking collegiate teams, but things just aren't sticking. So he eventually makes money as a motivational speaker. And that also doesn't go well, because if you've seen his after game press conferences, right? I mean, all right. Right? Yeah, right. All right. You just want to run through a wall for him. But his acronyms are great. So on paper, he looked good. He got into the gig. No one was motivated. He lost that job too.
All right. I don't know. I can't match that at all. But actually, the one I'm going to say, I'm not going to take it too far, but it might be real, especially with the comment you made earlier. But worst case for him is their recent win was a win against an even worse team, and they don't really do much more the rest of this season, bringing his overall 2-season record to like 6-7 wins over 2 seasons. That simply isn't enough. And with whatever has been going on with his coaching staff behind the scenes, if any of that ends up kind of connected more to him, that would be the worst case scenario for him, because perhaps he would not get another opportunity in any future hirings. So that would be his worst case scenario.
All right, Matt Eberflus, you better get on your game, man. Next up, he is him. He is the one, Justin Fields. Best case scenario, he comes back this week, right? There was talks about him possibly playing in the Thursday night game. He's going to come back against Detroit, a team that he has, well, with his last game against them was just absolutely awful. 33% completion percentage in that game. A pass that went to Aiden Hutchinson that I don't even know where he was going with it. That was
a weird situation.
Awful.
End of the half, right?
Yes. He's coming back, and he's going to play well. And he's going to get Matt Eberflus their first divisional win in his coaching career here in Chicago, because it hasn't happened yet. Like you said, they get one against Detroit. Well, they're going to take one against Green Bay, and they're going to take one against Minnesota. They're going to split 3 with all 3 teams. Justin Fields is going to continue to show us what we saw against Denver, continue to show us what we saw against Washington. He's going to start being a little bit more consistent. Remember, he only had 10 passes against Minnesota before he got hurt. Okay? He's going to show us more. He's going to prove that he's the right guy. Ryan Poles is going to stick with him. Ryan Poles is going to use one of those first-round picks for Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to use one of those first-round picks for another blue-chip player, maybe a left tackle. I don't know. Braxton Jones is looking pretty good too. I would love one of the top left tackles, though. Maybe a defensive end. Maybe Bowers, the tight end. Whoever it is, you're going to give Justin Fields another offensive piece. And they're going to, again, progress to 2024 and win a Super Bowl in 2025.
All right. I won't go very long. Pretty much the same thing. Justin Fields has shown flashes. But these last 7 games, assuming he comes back, now it's a week away from when we're recording right now. But if he comes back and stays healthy through 7 games and maybe wins 4 out of 7, 5-2, something like that, putting up great numbers, really meshing with those on offense, but also with what the defense is able to do in terms of turning the field, switching the field better by getting off the field on 3rd downs, forcing turnovers, which, like you said, they're still not really doing. And he pretty much proves that he is the long-term answer. The reason this would be so big is exactly what you said. If you have the answer there and you have the draft capital as if you didn't, and you're drafting 2 in the top 5, you can put pieces in place that makes this team very, very viable in 2024. And I think big picture, legacy-wise, if you can do it with the team you were drafted in a quarterback-thirsty city like Chicago,
yes,
you are a legend. And so it's not the same as if he goes on to some other team and has success. They could still look at what he did in Chicago as like a blemish on his legacy. So his best case, he balls out the rest of this season, which proves they should invest in him long-term, and he goes on to greatness beyond that, which is everyone in Chicago's best case.
It better be. It better be. If it's not, then you just hate Justin Fields. Worst case scenario regarding Justin Fields. Not for Justin Fields, regarding Justin Fields. Justin Fields continues his up and down, inconsistent play over the next 7 games. Luke Getsy again goes back to stupid ass play calling instead of moving the pocket that we've seen with Tyson Bagent. Like what we've seen with Tyson Bagent, I want to see more of with Justin Fields. He's going to bring him, or he's going to perform up and down, up and down, up and down. They get maybe 1 win against Arizona. I don't know, with Kyler Murray back, maybe not. They'll find 1 more win in these last 7 games. Ryan Poles has the first overall pick from Carolina. Decides he's going to take one of either Caleb Williams or Drake May. Leading up to the draft, trades Justin Fields. Who else is going to take him? The Atlanta Falcons. Ryan Pace.
That was my dirty bird.
Nice.
I was predicting the team you would say.
Yeah, Ryan Pace is like, look, this is my guy. I drafted him, not Ryan Poles.
Wow.
I drafted him. Bring him here. I'll give you a 3rd rounder for him. Right? That's good enough for you. I know it is because I'm not giving you a 2nd.
And you're desperate. Not desperate, but
You're not going to hold on to him.
right.
So you're going to get Justin Fields for a 3rd going to Atlanta. Atlanta runs a system that likes to throw the ball a lot differently than Luke Getsy does. You got Kyle Pitts. You got Drake London. They finally start using Bijan Robinson the way he should be used. Arthur Smith, you stupid moron. And this team, or the Atlanta Falcons, become a powerhouse in the NFL, while Caleb Williams is here in Chicago, and we rinse and repeat the cycle because everything that happened with Justin Fields happens again for Williams, who's going to hold on to the ball too long, who's not going to be able to read the defense consistently, who's going to be taking a beating, and that's going to throw off his clock. And we're in QB purgatory for another 10 years.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I guess mine's like identical to yours, with the only difference being a change of scenery doesn't even make it different for him. Like if his whole career is just inconsistency. Mm-hmm. I'd have to look to see if the person I'm about to throw out there had this type of career. But like, it reminds me of like Randall Cunningham, maybe.
Okay.
Where he showed flashes and was on some, where Fields is definitely different is he hasn't yet been on any teams that have had success.
Sure.
Whereas with the Eagles, he had success. Then he went to Minnesota and had some success. But like, I don't feel like he ever put it together enough that his teams were winning because of him, or like, so I don't know. That's going way, way back. But if he were to not really overwhelm in these last few games that are basically his showcase here, then it just ends ugly in Chicago. Hopefully, because we both are Fields guys, he does well in his next team. But I'd say his worst case is he just never puts it together, which you see guys come in who have tools and then just never put it all together.
That's right.
So
it happens. All right, the last one. The last one is just the team. Okay, so how is this team going to finish the 2023 season? Okay, we're going to also talk draft order, but I think we talked about it enough. We don't need to really do a best case, worst case here, and we already know that they're going to get at least one top 3 pick, right? So the team for 2023, best case scenario is, again, Justin Fields is showing enough where you're sticking with him because having that quarterback in play and it's going to be good is fantastic for your future. Montez Sweat is working out. Your re-sign, you extended Jalen Johnson before the end of the season. Ryan Poles, congratulations. I don't know how you did it, but you did it. Oh my gosh. Tyreek Stevenson is starting to, come into his own. He's kind of like Justin Fields on the outside. He's got really good moments and really bad moments sometimes. Kyler Gordon continues his step that we've seen since he's come back from his injury. He's been just progressing really well. The offensive line stays healthy, looks good everywhere except for Whitehair and Patrick. And the team finds a way to win 4 games. They finish 7-10. I mean, that's one win less than I predicted. It's not awful.
Okay.
That's best case.
Yeah. So I think best case is everything clicks. Fields comes back just right away. Like the thumb is not holding him back at all. And really, the games he started to shine, I think I'm right in saying this, were they both post Chase Claypool?
Yes.
Or like one, he hadn't officially been traded, but he was inactive.
He was told to stay home.
So we haven't seen a whole lot since he's been gone and Fields has been playing. But maybe he was hindering them in ways we don't know. And the offense begins to click and gel. They win 5 of their last 7 and get to 8 wins. Now, here's why that isn't really totally best case. Their pick now is a bit further back. We talked about if they are at 7, even at 6 or 7, they'll probably still be 10. In the top 8.
Yeah.
But if you get to 8 wins, you might not. You might be at the 10 pick or whatever. But you also would have 8 wins.
Right.
And with a roster that's now starting to come together, and you're still adding Carolina's pick, a top 10 pick, cap space. You have the confidence that we're the 2022 Lions. Look out in 2024, and then hopefully they follow it up.
In that scenario, if they have that first overall pick from the Panthers, they might take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then I look like a fool. So,
well, no,
I still think they would trade down.
They might trade it,
but
they don't want to fall too far down.
If you can't guarantee 1 to 3, you're losing out on Marvin Harrison Jr.
True.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going 3.
That's true.
I'm putting it on it right now.
Okay.
He is going 3rd overall in this draft.
Okay. So they could take him number 1, I guess, if that were to happen. But I feel like they could also trade back, and you don't lock in on just one guy.
You don't. But this guy, you want to talk generational. People don't think Caleb Williams is. Marvin Harrison Jr. is generational. He's generational.
Okay.
Worst case scenario for this team has a best case scenario spin. For us as fans, anyway. Worst case scenario is this team just implodes. They lose the locker room. There's now a quarterback controversy. Some want Justin Fields. Some want Tyson Bagent. Some are even calling for Nathan Peterman to play. They lose every game. Okay, they finished with the exact same record as they had last year. They're 3-14. The best case scenario is not the spin of the 2024 draft. Eberflus is fired. Ryan Poles, he's staying. I'm sorry, guys, he's staying. The McCaskies get so sick of this, they sell the team!
No way.
They sell the team.
I thought these had to be within the realm of actual possibility.
Yeah, it's not happening. I just had to throw that. I don't know how to still spin it, though. I mean, worst case scenario is this team just sucks.
Yeah. I mean, they can't lose some of the games they have.
No.
I mean, don't you think? Like you said, Arizona won today. Kyler Murray has a lot to prove. Atlanta's whatever. Everyone in their division, everyone in the NFC North. I thought when Kirk Cousins went down, that was really going to hurt Minnesota and kind of put them in a tailspin.
Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, he's come in and looked very sharp, and so they're probably not fearful of the Bears. I mean, put it this way. As much as we're looking at some of these games of the 7 they have left and saying they have some potential victories in there, pretty much every team sees the Bears on the schedule and looks at it as a potential victory. Mm-hmm. That's just where they're at after 2 years of not really winning too many games.
We picked them to win in UFFL this week, though.
Yeah, we did. So, the worst case is they're just terrible. Now, they would get a good pick, but somehow they squander the draft. Is that where you're going to?
No, I just totally thought of something that I completely missed out on, but I'm going to throw it in at the end.
All right, go for it.
So you're on board.
I mean, mine is like even with the picks, they just don't do what they need to do.
Okay.
But that would actually be potential. If they lose every game, then what do you do about Fields?
Right. I mean, it's a big decision.
Man, it's a huge decision. So,
I
and
wouldn't want to be Ryan Poles.
if they were to like tank,
There's just so
go
much
3
to
and
have
14,
to
4
decide
and
on.
13.
I mean, it's not like May and Williams are Stroud and Young. You know what I mean? Like this is a different quarterback class.
That's true. Different styles.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and as much as I liked Stroud, I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this good this fast. I think it's coaching. I mean, they have a good offensive coordinator there, and then you got D'Amico Ryans is a pretty good coach. All these San Francisco guys, man.
Hey,
everybody who's
winning formula.
Everyone who's like connected directly to Kyle Shanahan, not Luke Getsy, who's indirectly connected, right? Like,
all right, what's your twist?
So the worst case, also a different thing that happens is Justin and I decide to fold up House Huddle because the fucking Bears, man. The fucking Bears.
It is hard when they're shitty, when they're losing, but I think they're turning the corner.
The good thing is our friendship wouldn't die.
That's right.
So
and you wouldn't.
I wouldn't make you go to prison, and I wouldn't go live on an island.
So we're not,
because we're only at 463 subscribers, guys. You got to get us over the edge. I want to give this jersey away, and I want to give it away by the end of this year. And maybe I just decide to give it away anyway at the end of 2023 because I'm just a nice guy. So you subscribe.
2023 season. Well,
no, end of the 2023. Yeah, the season. So it'll go into 2024. I'm sorry. But subscribe. If you're listening, subscribe. If you're not listening, you know someone who's a Bears fan, tell them to subscribe. Okay? The more that I can put into the show, the better. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I want to be here to talk with you guys. Justin and I do a great job with our comments as much as possible. Life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm going to be 40. Do it for my birthday.
Yeah.
I'm going to be over the hill soon.
Man.
I mean, worst case scenario for me, I could die.
Oh my gosh.
Just hit the subscribe button. Maybe I die on the show. You get to watch just hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit us up with comments. We love the support. And you guys are amazing. And by the way, I might just have to give it to Dr. Truth if we don't get, we might not even do a random drawing if you guys don't hit the subscribe button soon, because, he's probably been our biggest supporter and we appreciate you greatly.
Absolutely. All right, Rob. Nice job, man.
Bear down.
Bear down.